discuss, I am just so thrilled and honored to have the chairman of the board for Advancing American Freedom, Marc Short, former chief of staff for Vice President Mike Pence. Marc, thank you so much for joining me. So I imagine I may have said a few things you don't agree with. Explain to me your position.
Well, Batya, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Look, I think that when Donald Trump came on the stage in 2016, he was able to pull together a coalition that no other candidate on the Republican side could. And he deserves all the credit in the world for that. And obviously, Mike Pence was an essential part of that campaign in 2016. And I was proud to serve as his first legislative affairs director during the first 2 years of his administration. But I think, to be honest with you, I think we govern as conservatives. I think if you look at the president's first-term record, he was very solid on protecting life. He was incredibly great about appointing conservative judges. When it came to Ukraine, in 2018, he would travel the country talking about how President Obama sent blankets and he sent Javelin missiles to help them protect themselves. I think when it came to the economy, it was featured by significant tax reductions and deregulations that propelled us forward. I think that what has changed is that that's not the way it's being governed in the second administration. But frankly, this really isn't about President Trump. This is about conservative institutions that have always been, I think, as far as my lifetime, have been focused on promoting free markets, promoting limited government, promoting the rule of law, regardless of who's in the Oval Office. That's their function. And I think that, you know, during the Bush administration, conservative groups held them accountable. During Democrat administrations, they've held them accountable. And I know some critics like to say, well, you know, you don't know what time it is, as if you're just pining away for the Reagan years again. But I think we believe these are the principles that our country was founded on. These are very consistent with our founding fathers' vision for America. And I think every time we veered off of that, our country has struggled. And we've stayed true to those principles. It's actually when we've helped make America great again.
I guess my question would be, Nikki Haley ran on that exact platform that you're describing. Maybe you even voted for her in the primary. She outspent President Trump 2-1, and she only won 2 states. He blew her out of the water. The voters just aren't there anymore. And so when you say this is what our country was founded on, I mean, don't the voters get a say in what those values should be? And didn't they have their say when they voted for Trump?
I don't, look, I think that the Nikki Haley comparison is a red herring. This has really nothing to do with Nikki Haley. But I think that the reality is that a lot of voters, I think, were hoping they would get Trump on the first term. I mean, they had 4 years of those policies. And so in many cases, they were voting for it. And I think when the Biden DOJ used lawfare to go after him, it rallied Republican voters back around him. And that's fine. He defeated all of those candidates, but that doesn't mean that you can't continue to stand on principle if you're a conservative. It doesn't mean that all conservative groups begin to all of a sudden be quiet when the government begins buying up private sector companies. I've traveled across the country to dozens of rallies across the country for Donald Trump's campaign, and I never remember one of those people coming and saying, boy, I really wish we had more state-owned enterprises in America.
But he did campaign on tariffs.
A lot of voters wanted the first administration.
But he did campaign on tariffs.
He's been consistent on that.
You're
absolutely right.
He campaigned on ending the war in Ukraine and ending our support for it, right? So a lot of these things, ending the foreign entanglements, a protectionist economic agenda that says no to free trade. Tell me.
You're mixing up. This isn't about Donald Trump. This is about conservative organizations holding firm for those same conservative values, regardless of who's in the Oval Office. And so I'm not trying to relitigate the 2020 or 2024 campaign. It's about holding true to those, I think, founding principles that have made America great that we're going to continue to advance. And I think in many cases, many of those same conservative groups have been coward because they don't want to go and criticize President Trump, but they've abandoned those same things they were founded on. And we're not going to do that. We're going to stand firm for conservatism.
I truly admire that because I admire anybody who takes an unpopular stand, but I think in admitting that it's unpopular, you're sort of admitting that the electorate is not there anymore.
No, I didn't admit it was unpopular about you. What I just said to you is I think a lot of voters voted for Donald Trump because they thought it'd be a repeat of the first administration. And the first administration was very conservative. And so I'm not suggesting to you that it's unpopular. I do think there was a personality, and there was also, when you compare Donald Trump to how feeble Joe Biden was, and you have those two choices, I mean, a lot of us are going to choose Donald Trump in that situation. But that's different than saying, hey, conservative views are unpopular. I think you'll be surprised that those conservative views come back really quickly.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.